Hey y'all, today I'll show you how to make a dessert that you can keep on hand at all times. I keep mine in the freezer, and whenever I want to make a dessert, and just something little for just the two of us, I can throw it together and it's really easy. We have 1 3/4 cup of old-fashioned oats. We have 3/4 of a cup of pecans, and these are kind of pieces, but I'm going to chop them up a little bit more. You can use pecans, almonds, walnuts, anything you like. And we have 1/2 cup of brown sugar. You really could reduce this by quite a bit if you want to. If for a dessert, you probably want it to be a little sweeter. I've even served this for breakfast. And if you do that, then I would reduce the sugar. If you use frozen cherries or blueberries, that's a pretty sweet fruit. So I don't feel like it needs hardly any sugar. If you want to use strawberries or sour cherries or something like that, then you might want to add the sugar. But I encourage anyone to just make it their own, do what you like, and you certainly don't have to follow this exactly. And this is 1/3 of a cup of whole wheat flour. It kind of helps to make the fruit thick. When we microwave the cherries and blueberries, we're gonna have a lot of juice, and this flour will sift down and make it a little bit thicker. I always like to add just a pinch of salt, maybe 1/4 teaspoon. This is just maybe a little bit less than a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And we need 5 tablespoons of oil, and I'm just using canola oil here. And the oil will help the oats and the nuts to crisp up in the oven. I stir this so much, and I just stir it until all of the oil is on all of the oats and the flour and the nuts. You can kind of tell when you don't see any flour left. I don't know if you can tell, where it doesn't really look too dry anymore. That's all there is to this. This is so easy. Okay, I'm going to explain how versatile this recipe is. You can mix this up. You could fill this square pan with frozen fruit, and then you could just pour most of this all over the top and bake it just like that. If you have several people, for a family. If you want to make it for breakfast, you could make it in this square pan. You could even double it and make it in a 9x13. You can do whatever you want. When we have friends that spend the weekend, sometimes I make it in this pan, or you can make it in these 1 cup ramekins. That's what I usually do for my husband and I. And that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna make this crisp in the ramekins. My favorite is dark sweet cherries. For some reason, I think that the wild blueberries, it has a lot more blueberry flavor than just plain blueberries. So whenever I see wild blueberries, then I buy those. All I'm gonna do is just fill these with the fruit. I usually just fill the bottom with the cherries and then finish it with the blueberries. It smells so good. And since it's frozen, just make sure that I fill it all the way up because it will sink down once they thaw out. We're gonna microwave these for a bit, and all we wanna do is thaw the berries, and then we're gonna smush them down with the fork. So that's really all we want, is just to have them thaw. We don't wanna cook them. Okay, there is a lot of juice in this fruit. So I usually just mash it with a fork until I get as much juice out as I can. It's gonna soak up all that flour and the oats. It's gonna be so good. Now all we do is spoon some of this on the top. I usually just cover it, just like that. Sometimes I put a little bit less on mine. Put a little bit more on his. This is really all you need to do to bake it. You could just put it in the oven like this, but sometimes I put little bitty dots of butter on top. Just kind of helps everything brown on the top, and plus butter tastes good, right? So after you make up your topping and you keep it in the freezer, and then you've bought your frozen fruit and that's in the freezer, when you want a dessert, you just pull your little containers out, you thaw out the berries, you cover them in the topping, and you bake it. And that's so easy. This is it. This is all you have to do. I like to put mine on a tray just because sometimes the juice can kind of splatter out while it's baking. We're gonna bake it at 400 degrees for 20 minutes. Now I'll just go ahead and put this in my container. You can double this recipe if you want. It keeps for, I would say, probably 3 or 4 months in the freezer. It's been such a busy week for me, and I'm so glad that I've got this ready to go. I've got this, I've got some pizza dough that I made, and I can have dinner ready in just minutes. And then while we're eating dinner, I can preheat the oven to 400, and then as soon as we get through eating, I just pop this dessert in the oven and it's ready. Oh my goodness, look at these. They look so good, they're bubbling. You can make them really decadent by putting ice cream on top, or you can just leave it the way it is. You can reduce the sugar and serve it for breakfast. You can double the recipe and make it in a really big pan. It's just a very versatile recipe that we love. I really hope you liked this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below, and I'll see you in the next one.